A, B, C. A always B, B, C closing. Always be closing.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Another episode of Scared Money Don't Make Money. As always, it's your boy Cam. Before we get started, please don't forget to subscribe, like our Facebook page, all our social media, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. You know, we're not on Snapchat yet because once again, Roy don't know how to dance, and I'm getting old for this. So you know,
Nope. Hold
your
on.
favorite, your
Actually, don't you say it. Not your favorite recruiter's
It's your
recruiter.
favorite recruiter's favorite recruiter. Roy keeps bullshitting, but he knows it's true. And as always,
Your boy Roy, and he's not my favorite recruiter.
he's a liar. We're going to start every show off with lies. And we have Marc here. I'm gonna let Marc introduce himself. I met Marc on LinkedIn. I watch him. I watch his dad. His whole squad are just doing awesome things, and we connected on a coffee with Cam. And or I'm sorry, on the balls coffee, virtual coffee, where I also kind of stole his idea. And so I appreciate you, Marc, coming on, man. I know you're busy, so please introduce yourself, tell the people what you're about, and we'll start.
Yeah, my pleasure. My name is Marc Nudelberg. I'm president of On the Ball, which is our family company that's been operating for 25 plus years and has changed faces a few times. But what we do is we primarily focus on the development of people and organizations to help them be successful. My previous life and previous career was in college football. I was a college football coach for a decade, coached all over the country at places like Florida State, Florida, Cincinnati, Nevada, Lafayette College. So up and down the levels of college football. And, you know, through those travels, I learned a lot of basic fundamentals to success. And I would teach life through sport is the way that I would talk to a lot of the athletes that I coached, which immediately transitioned to the business world when I got out and started working in sales and started working with organizations, and immediately identified all of the gaps in organizational structure, in time management and discipline and accountability, and just the basic fundamentals that come out of being successful as an organization in football, and helping organizations apply those same principles to themselves to be successful.
Very nice. Yeah, and I know you and I talked about that too, as far as you know, like you said, you took your college coaching experience. And so how did you start out? Like, I know you told me that you were in school, and then, you know, that's how you kind of, so like, what was the path there?
As most, I would hope most success stories start or begin. You know, I started from the very bottom of the organization at Florida State. I started as a student equipment manager, which was a scholarship position when I started as an undergrad. And through that time, worked my way up the organizational chart to become a student assistant coach. And then when I graduated, Jimbo Fisher became the head coach. He hired me as the quality control coach for special teams. I did that for 3 years until I launched that to my next coaching stop, which was at the University of Cincinnati, where I became a special teams coordinator and tight ends coach. And then that led to me being a special teams coordinator at a few more schools, coaching on offensive and defensive side of the ball. But I started from the very bottom, started changing screws on face masks and doing the laundry and setting up practice drills and loading the planes and all that kind of stuff. Man. So all the grunt work.
Hey, I'm good with that. That's all I did for 9 years. My first 9 years in the Air Force was like, look, you know, I was in logistics, but in the Air Force, a lot, like, everything was a part of my job, except for fixing the plane, but like loading the plane, bringing the food out to the plane, putting the passengers on the plane, you know, all that stuff. So I feel you, man.
Yeah, I've been out there, you know, and so like when you travel with the team, you travel in the warm up. You know, you got to be dressed in the same uniform as the rest of the team. So I got my travel pants on and my travel jacket, and I'm look like I'm part of the squad. And then we get to the plane, and it's like, all right, hustle. And I'm out there with the crew. I'm out there with the crew grabbing bags off the trucks and throwing them onto the machine, getting it into the plane. Like, and then, all right, now let me walk myself back upstairs and get back on the plane. Like, so,
like,
but, you know.
But weren't you?
So everybody on the plane chilling, and you getting all sweaty.
Yeah.
Like, whew.
Oh, 1,000%. 1,000%. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I'd make sure that I had like a pair of shorts and a gym shirt underneath my warm up. I like get undressed, go to work, and then like put my stuff back on and get back on the plane.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, when we were in Korea, we had we had like our cold weather gear. I do the same thing. Like you take off like the Mo Barkley stuff to put on like the
Yeah.
stuff that actually mess up your other stuff. I know Roy
Yep.
Roy was an electrician when he came in, so he knows all about the
Yeah,
grunt
so
work.
the grunt work, that's why when you said like started from the bottom, but to me, I think you have a greater appreciation when you do things at the lower level and you work your way up. Like, so as you climb up, you have a higher appreciation. Like, I've been there.
There's
and
no
I'm out here.
doubt. Like Bill Belichick has hired two of his sons on his staff for the Patriots, right? And those guys are really well respected by the players. And when you come into it like that, you could easily be looked at as like nepotism and like, oh, you've been given this job. But really what's made them successful is the fact that they've lived inside that organization from the time that they were 6, 7 years old. They don't know anything other than the Patriot way. So as they've seen the organization change, they've changed with it, and they've grown up around those unbelievable athletes, those unbelievable coaches, and they don't know anything different other than that experience. So it's easy for them to take all of that learned experience from being kids to immediately adopting that, and at a younger age being able to apply a lot of those things to teach guys that might be 15 years in their career, but the first time with the Patriots, and able to teach them things that they haven't heard because they haven't been in that system before. So for me, when I got hired as a coach at Florida State, I knew the program inside and out. I knew every corner of the building. I mean, I knew every shortcut. I knew everything about it because I had been a part of that entire process for 5 years until I got hired. So coming up through it, when it was time for me to be a special teams coordinator, like the level of detail that I would put on a practice script to help the equipment manager set up the drill so that I didn't have to coach them on anything. I didn't have to get mad that things weren't done the way that I wanted to, because I had done that job before. So I knew the tools that could help them stay ahead of it to help me be successful.
Yeah. No, for sure. And there's definitely something to be said when it comes to that. I was talking to somebody yesterday on the phone, and we're obviously talking about dynamics and team cohesion and things like that, and as you've seen on LinkedIn, everyone, a lot of people out of work right now. And there's like, God, like, and I'm glad that there are a lot of recruiters out there that are teaching, based off like the referral stuff. Like, hey, I know this person. I know their work ethic. I know what they bring to the table. And that's why I've been trying to push on a lot of our, like I was telling you, a lot of the people who are currently in the military is like, yo, those things matter, bro. Like, I know, I'm an only child to a single mother. And so like, we were having a conversation about like, I had chore cards. Well, in my, as a child, that's cool and all, like you have chore cards, but I feel like it taught an unnecessary amount sometimes of the action reaction thing, like, oh, if you do this, you get that. So as I've become an adult, Roy especially has helped me deal with the whole, like, just because you do a good job doesn't mean you get what you want,
Yeah.
And it's hard to hear as an only child. It's hard. It hurts.
I got 5 A's and I don't get $20 for each A.
That's right.
I mean, first of all, I got like 2 A's throughout my whole life.
Yeah, I think the conversation of privilege is a hot topic, obviously.
Correct.
And privilege can be looked at in two ways, right? Privilege can be looked at as a negative, like, oh, you've been given these opportunities, so therefore you don't understand what it's like to struggle. Or it can be looked at as you got that opportunity, but you knew how to take advantage of that opportunity in order to leverage it to grow. Like if you like the example I just talked about, Bill Belichick's sons, they started at the bottom of the organization. That's still an opportunity. Nobody else gets to start in that organization at 10 years old, right?
Correct.
So that's privilege. But that's privilege that was given to them, but then earned through the work to get them to where they are today. So it was an opportunity as much as it was something that was just handed to them. So I think, it's hard. We live in a world where you go back and forth between like people telling you that like you need to be human and you need to recognize and you need to, you know, give gratitude and you need to recognize people and appreciate and do all that. And then you have an old school generation that's like, forget that. Like I had to work and grind for every second, and nobody told me I did a good job. And I'm not in it for the good job. I'm in it to know that I did it that way. So I think there's a balance, you know, and you guys working in the military world understand it. And some of the people that I coach that are in leadership roles in the business world that come out of the military have a hard time because they're used to that drill sergeant, drill instructor, do what I say because it's what I said. Don't understand that you need to give people the why behind what they're doing so that they can understand it, but also need to not jump to grab the stick immediately when people don't do things the way they want it done. You know, there is a medium between understanding how to have conversations with people, how to come at people as an equal, not a superior, in order to build trust and rapport, in order to get the behavior that you want, to then, once you don't get it, have consequences.
Yeah. Those are very good examples, because I mean, even the example that you gave about Bill Belichick and his sons, like I do look at the whole, me and Cam talk about it all the time because I get mad like if my son does something and I'll be like, oh, like you don't know what it feels like to like have to watch a commercial.
He be hot.
Yeah.
Like, I get mad. Like you don't know what it's like to have to watch a commercial between your favorite show and you got to run to the bathroom and then come back. Like, so.
I mean, I was talking about this the other day. Like, do you remember when you had to like make a mixtape off the radio?
Yeah.
So like you had to listen to the radio for your song to come on and hit record and then stop the record and forget about it if like the DJ decided to come on in the middle of your song and ruin it. And then you had to rewind it back and try to catch it again. Like those struggles, were real.
Messes up your world.
I've been making my kids watch. My parents have the YouTube TV. I've been making them watch it so that they gotta watch commercials. And my oldest, who's actually more tempered, you know, she has a better temperament than my other kids. She'd be like, when are they gonna stop, Dad?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, bro, you only 45 seconds in, man. Give it another minute 15.
that immediate gratification, that instant gratification, that I want it now culture will only continue to, and I find myself doing that. Like, you know, like I'll be at a stoplight and want to check an email, and like all of a sudden my email's not loading. I'm like, what the hell? Why isn't this immediate? Why can't I read this right now? Like, and then I'm thinking to myself, like, there was a time that I couldn't even like read emails in a car. Like, relax. You'll get it at some point. Like,
we were around when there wasn't email.
Yeah, exactly.
AOL, you got mail.
Oh, that dial-up, man. But 3-4 minutes just to get online.
Mom, get off the phone.
But to that point, right? Like we have to adapt with it. Right. Like we can't punish our kids because of the world that they live in. Like they're going to grow up in a world that's got information at their fingertips instantaneously. Yeah. So it's our responsibility to adapt with them, to teach them how to use that as tools to apply the same lessons we learned about work ethic, about accountability, about discipline, you know, and about a reward system that's earned while they're using those tools to help themselves be better than we were at that age.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And to go to your point, what you were talking about earlier, as far as like adapting to like almost like leadership style and just jumping down somebody's throat. I remember talking to, I think he was like a lieutenant colonel, and we were talking about like making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And he's like, if I give you an order to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and that's all I said, make me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich by 4 o'clock. What are you gonna do? I'm gonna make you a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. He's like, but what are you gonna do first? Put the jelly on, put it on the peanut butter. Like, are you gonna use grape? Are you gonna use strawberry? I like, well, you didn't give me that instruction. He's like, that's all I'm saying. If I say make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, don't overcomplicate it. Just make it. Right. But I think a lot of times, even as leaders or managers, we'll say make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but we'll get mad. Like, why didn't you put the peanut butter on first?
Correct.
Like, that's what I would have did. Well, damn it, you ain't making the sandwich. I'm making the sandwich. So I think we have to take that into consideration. Just let them do it their way.
Sounds like a
Or
conversation with my
if you
wife.
have things that you want done a specific way, then you have to set that expectation
Yep.
in the instruction. And it's the same thing for yourself. Like, we're getting close to New Year's, and everybody's going to have those 2020, 21 those resolutions for what they want to do in the new year. The reason that most people don't accomplish their New Year's resolutions is because they're just too broad. They're not detailed enough. Like, they're like, I want to live a healthier lifestyle. Okay, well, what does that mean? Like, are you going to get more sleep? Are you going to discipline yourself to a bedtime? Are you going to lose a certain amount of weight? Are you going to stop eating certain things? Like, you have to be defined about the behavior if you expect to get the result. And I think when you find great leaders, you always find that they're very detail oriented and that they're very process driven. Like, they know exactly the way in which they want things done, and they know it to a detail, and they're able to communicate that, which can create a great organization because everybody understands what their role is and how they're supposed to accomplish it, right? Like, in football, everybody's like, just do your job. Well, in an organization, if you haven't explained to somebody what their job is, you can't assume that they know what to do. So a lot of times when we get involved with organizations, and especially in the sales process, like, look, people think that they understand what sales is, but sales is a human science at this point. It's so much different than what it used to be. And you guys know, in recruiting, like, you're not pushing somebody to join anything anymore. You're not pushing anybody to make any decision anymore. All you're doing is giving them all the tools that they need in order to make their own decision. But in order to figure out what tools they need, you got to learn about them. You got to ask the right questions. You have to figure out what makes that person tick. And then you got to figure out how to craft your message or the thing that you represent in order to fit that person. But what organization is teaching that to the salespeople that they on board that are 23, 24 years old, that are straight out of school and have absolutely no idea? They're just told, no, here's the product, here's the price, and this is the thing that we represent. This is how it fits people. Now go sell it to everybody that you know. It doesn't make sense. And that's why the sales game is dying a slow death, because the skill that it takes in order to be successful in sales is not being taught to anybody.
Correct. And I talk, it's funny. I had, like, you've brought up so many points of the people that I've talked to this past week. Is it the same thing? Is, like you said, it's a dying art. I think I was talking to somebody yesterday that said the same thing. He's like, I don't even teach people how to recruit. 90% of the time I'm teaching them how to communicate effectively, because that's just, it's starting to become a lost art. And luckily there are people who are starting to pick up the torch here, like around our demographic, who are trying to keep it moving. But like you said, a lot of it is very instant gratification. And this is what I got. Take it or leave it. Move on to the next one. Blast 15,000 people, and hopefully you get 50 people who call you back and buy your product.
Right, and it becomes a numbers game. They're just willing to churn and burn, and it's like, well, if we need your numbers to be here, then we need you to do X amount of phone calls. And they're not looking at the efficiency of what they're doing. You know what I mean? They're just saying, make the 300 calls so that you can find the 5 people. That way we can still continue to make the numbers that we make. And all they're doing is increasing the amount of activity, even though the efficiency of that activity is going further and further down. That's why a lot of the organizations that we work with, we're teaching them how to use video in the selling process. Like, we're a strategic partner of Vidyard, which is an unbelievable tool. And the reason we chose to be strategic partners with Vidyard and not some other company that's offering a similar video service is because Vidyard's not teaching you how to use video to make commercials. They're teaching you how to use video to communicate and simplify the process for people and simplify the way that you can build relationships at scale in order to make yourself more efficient in the sales process. And it's the same concept for leaders. Like, when I'm working with an organization that's got a lot of people in it and the leader is responsible for 10, 20, 30 people at a time, you're not going to spend time with those people every single day. It's impossible. But how easy is it for you to get up, shoot them a video to let them know that you're thinking about them as a group, or, hey guys, I wanted to make sure we were all on the same page about this, because what people forget is that when they see you, they get comfortable with you. So it doesn't take an actual face-to-face where you're seeing them in order to build that rapport. As long as they see you daily, they feel like they know you. And then you step into the office for the first time in a month, but they feel like they know you because they see you every day, even though you're like, I don't even know your name. I've got no idea who you are, and I need to get
new here, right? You're new here, right?
seen you in a month. You know, but that's the importance of a leader. That's your responsibility to continue to invest in those people daily.
So I actually have a meeting with, was it Rochelle, next week with Vineyard?
Oh, Vidyard, yeah, Rachel.
Yes. Yeah, Rachel. Sorry,
oh, that's
Rachel.
awesome.
So she actually reached out to me after I commented on one of your things and was like, "Hey, any friend of Mark's is a friend of mine." I was like,
That's
"All right."
awesome.
And so we're gonna chat next week. But I want to talk to her because, like you said, I see the value of the product that she's doing, and I want to tell people about it.
It's a game changer.
And so just little note that somebody told me yesterday was, people shouldn't get paid, like what you're saying. People shouldn't get paid for work. They should get paid for results.
So I
you're 50-50.
Now I don't even know if it's 50-50 on that for me,
because
what I've always believed is in the process.
Yeah.
And so you can't control, especially in sales, I can't control whether or not a person says yes to me. I can never control that. I can never control the outcome. But what I can control is that I'm doing all of the right things in the process.
Correct.
And it's the same thing in sport. You really can't control whether or not you win the game. Yeah. All you can control is how you prepare for that game and then how you execute every down in that game in order to give yourself the best opportunity to win. There's really no control over the scoreboard. Yeah. So it becomes about how do you operate on a daily basis? Yeah. How are you functioning to keep your behaviors aligned with whatever your desired outcomes are? And how are you disciplining yourself to those behaviors in order to create momentum day after day after day by stacking those activities one after another? So I get a little, especially in sales. Look, you got to do sales. Yeah. If you don't do sales, it's something, you're not winning. So in a world where, yes, it's about the results and it's about the revenue and you have to get there, if that's the only thing you're judging people on, you're probably missing a ton of opportunity to develop people, to improve them, to increase what you're doing and find far more efficient ways to increase your revenue, to increase your bottom line by just developing the people that you have instead of saying, well, they're not hitting the number, so they're out.
And that's why I didn't elaborate, because I wanted to see what you said. So
hold on, but I got a question. So would that go into like the instant gratification type of deal? Because I agree with you on trusting, like doing the process and going through the motions. But can one, let me see, how can I phrase this? Results, so getting paid on results, trusting the process, because I know, like if I tell my son to do something and he don't get those results, now he's upset with the process. Does that make sense?
Sure. Sure. Yeah, 1,000%. And so that's why I feel like rewarding the behavior is better than rewarding the results. Yeah. Like everybody wants to celebrate when somebody scores a touchdown, right? That's beautiful. But what I'm celebrating is the fact that the back made the right read, made the right cut, did the right thing. I'm celebrating that because that's going to get us more touchdowns than just celebrating the touchdown itself. So bringing that into a parenting, example with my son, if he gets up and carries his plate into the kitchen, I'm celebrating the fact that he did that on his own, not necessarily the fact that his plate's in the kitchen. You know what I mean? Like I'm saying, hey, great job getting up. I'm telling him immediately it's instant gratification of the behavior, not necessarily of the result. I'm not paying him because the dishes were clean at the end of the night. I'm celebrating the behavior that got us to that point.
Correct. And that's and the person that told me that phrase, that's exactly how they ended up elaborating it. They said the exact same thing. They're like, I can't, because he's a career coach, and he's like, I can't control if the company has an internal person. He's like, but The results that I'm talking about, like you said, is the results of, did you fix your, did you do the research to fix your LinkedIn profile? Did you hit
Yep.
the marks of doing research on the company that you're applying for to know what is really going to make a difference when it comes to getting hired at that company? So, no, I 100% agree. And I'm glad that you said all that.
Yeah. It's and it's hard because when especially when you're dealing with companies that are hiring you in a consultant,
Correct.
everybody wants ROI. Everybody wants to know what the
Everybody.
ROI is,
Yeah.
So it's when you get in that conversation, I'm like, look, I'm not going to focus on that. We're going to get there. That should be the byproduct of what we're working on. But here's the areas that we're going to be focused on. We're going to be focused on mindset. We're going to be focused on time management. We're going to be focused on how we're using the new tools of today to drive relationships, to have conversations. Because, I had this conversation with a young sales guy yesterday that I'm coaching. I said, look, the only metric you should be worried about is how many virtual coffees a day you're having. If you're telling me that you're only having one virtual coffee a day, you're not having enough conversations in order to have success. Right?
Yeah.
We'll worry about fixing something that's happening maybe in the sales process once we know that the top of the funnel front end of it is running like a machine. Because you could be a numbskull, but if you're putting far more activity at the top and you're putting more quality and quantity of leads into the funnel, by osmosis, you're going to end up having success, because you're so focused on doing things at the top that matter that you're going to end up getting the results somehow, some way.
Correct. And me and Roy have always been a big proponent of that, especially because, like you said, sales is a numbers game. Recruiting can be a numbers game. And, I was glad. I think I told you he helped train me. So like when we started doing the process, we very much agreed in, talk to people and things will follow, so whether you're qualified or not, don't get me wrong, I can't meet with everybody and their mom, but if you're 5-10 pounds overweight, man, come on in, let's chat, bro. 5-10 pounds, that's nothing, and I can do half the process. I just can't do this second half. And then I used to tell a lot of other recruiters, I'm like, look, man, like, it's a values game. If you just tell someone to get lost until they get 10 pounds, they get to 10 pounds, you've now lost value, because honestly, you just kind of seem like a douche. But, if you have them come in and you sit down with them, you let them take the test, they score high on the test. Guess what? Now they're like, ooh, I scored high on the test. I want to take actionable, steps to lose my weight so I could be in the Air Force now and use this 90 something score rather than not, or even 50, whatever, qualified.
Yeah. I love that. It's the same conversation that we have with salespeople, is that, you can't walk into the conversation thinking, is this person a qualified lead or not? Because everybody in the world essentially has two options that can help you. They can buy from you, or they know somebody that can buy from you. So if you walk into the conversation with just the idea that all you want to do is figure out whether or not you guys like each other, right? Because, we ask this question all the time when we start our trainings, is when's the last time you bought something of significance from somebody that you didn't like? Probably never, right? Because as soon as you don't like somebody, you don't want to deal with them. And it doesn't matter what that product is, you're going to find somewhere else to get it, or somebody else to get it from, because that's the world that we live in. Everything is commoditized. So in the world of sales, the number one name of the game is to make friends with everybody. So when our parents told us that it's not a popularity contest, I would call bullshit. I think it is a popularity contest. You want to be great in sales? Have more friends, right? But I don't say that in a way that I would tell you, you got to be friends with everybody. You just got to have enough conversations to sift through the people that you don't work with, to find enough of the ones that you do in order to build a successful business and career for yourself.
Correct. That's funny.
That is funny.
No, and it's true. And it's self-reflection. It's self-reflection too. I know I myself have had to do a lot, because I'm a big, like we talked about, you and I, we have a lot of things in common. I'm a big personality, right? And so when I was younger, it took a lot to calm that down a little bit, to understand the dynamics of people, where it's like, you know what? And Roy always laughs at me because he's watched me grow. And so, whatever. So, but I get it. And that's one of the things we talk about with him is he is very good at toting both sides of the line. Like he's both very likable, but at the same time he'll say the occasional thing where people are like, did he really just say that? But because he's likable 98% of the time, they're like, it's just Roy.
Yeah.
I mean, but I think so. I've learned to where, like, I know I like to talk. I mean, and that's with anybody. Like, you like to talk, but when it's time to finally speak, because there's a difference. Like, there are times when we talk, but then there are times that we speak. And I think when we're speaking, that's when you have to show that value, like you were saying earlier, like showing that value. So when I try to speak, I try to provide that value. When I'm talking, I'm just talking shit.
Well, so that, I don't care if it's sales, if it's coaching, if it's leadership, whatever it is, being likable is one thing, right? That's one quality in the bucket, is being likable and understanding how to relate to people and figure out where they are, to meet them where they are in order to have a conversation that allows you to connect. The next part of it is being an expert.
Yeah.
If you don't know what the hell you're talking about, you can't ever position it in a way to make sense to everybody that you have a conversation with. Because that's the key, is it's my job to have this thing back here that I know is valuable, but it's only valuable to you if you understand why it's valuable to you. Because it's not going to be the same value to everybody. It's going to hit everybody a different way. And that was the thing about being a special teams coordinator, was nobody aside from the kicker, the punter, and the snapper, nobody else's job is strictly special teams. Everybody else got recruited onto the team to play something else. Special teams is something that I'm asking them to do. So I got to figure out how to reach that one person to make them want to play special teams. And that's different for everybody. For the starter, it's not the same conversation as me coming to that person, hey, I need you on this one phase for this one job, because it's so critical that we have to have our very best players doing this, as opposed to coming at the guy who I'm looking at you going, look, if you don't do the things I'm asking you to do, you ain't gonna make the bus, because you're not making it in the 2 deep at your position. So if you want to travel and you want to play, your only shot is this. So I need you to do everything exactly the way I need you to do it, so I can trust you. Those are two way different conversations, but I'm asking both guys to do the same thing. They're both playing special teams. You know?
Yeah.
So understanding what it is that you represent in a way that you're able to diagnose for somebody else, this is why this thing fits for you and is valuable, is a huge part of being an expert. Understanding what you represent inside and out, understanding the pros and the cons of it, and understanding the market in which it exists. Like most people just say, oh, well, bump the competitors, I'm better than everybody else. That's not realistic. Why wouldn't you understand why somebody else would want to go with your competitor, but figure out how you can either fit in next to it or fit in instead of it?
Correct. Roy, you got to show this episode to your recruiters.
Oh, I do. I really do. Like this is like, I mean, because like because when you're trying to take it to that next level, I think having a clear understanding, because you got to speak to understand and speak to have knowledge, because like you just said, understanding some of your competitors, because there's been many times where even as a recruiter, when I started learning about competitors, I started questioning, like, shoot, maybe I need to jump ship and like go with them, because like as you start to peel back the layers, you like it's no different than like when you're a star athlete on a team and you're playing for the Cavaliers or whoever, the Golden State Warriors, and like you start like, man, that's my competitor. But then you start peeling back the onion of that organization, like, hold on, this is what you offer me? Like, So I think just having that understanding, and honestly, it's a respect factor too, because a lot of times you can't knock somebody for being better sometimes. Like sometimes it's just like, dang, like that shit better than mine. Like,
and the reality is that might be a better fit for somebody else. And if you're willing to acknowledge that and have that conversation with them, instead of trying to sell them on something that you know is not a good fit for them, you got an opportunity to come back to that business at some point.
Correct.
Come back to that person at some point, or at minimum, just build a friendship with that person because they know they can trust you. And who knows whether or not they know somebody that you're a better fit for than what they're choosing to do. So, that to me is, especially in the recruiting space, because I dealt with recruiting when I was a football coach, obviously. So there were athletes that I'm having a conversation with that I knew for sure we were the best fit for them, and I had no problem saying that. There were other athletes that I'd have the conversation with them, and I'd say, look, like, you're better off going to Miami than you are Florida State. You're right.
Yeah.
You want to play early. These are the things that are important to you, and it's going to be difficult for you to do that here. Now, you want to win championships. You want to be a part of a culture that is all about winning, and you want to push yourself to a competitive level that's different than everywhere else. This is where you want to be. But if you want to go play now, and that's the thing that's important to you, we're not the people for you. And a lot of times what you find in sales is when you take the opportunity away, they want it even more.
Oh, 100%.
Now they're like, well, wait a minute. Why are you
100%.
telling me that it's not for me? They're like, well, why? What do you mean we're not a good fit? I'm a good fit for everybody. No, actually you're not. I don't think you are. I don't think you're a good. And then it's like you got to try to talk them out of, because now they want it.
Man, no, that's true. I used to tell Roy I called it my 1-2-3 punch when I was recruiting people, because I would, like you said, I would talk to them, I give the opportunity, but then I take the opportunity, but then I give it back, but I give it back with responsibilities. Oh, you can have it, but you got to do this first.
Yeah, sure.
I'm glad to see I'm not crazy.
I think, look, when you think about like the world of sales and like the image that most people get, it's built on these older movies, these used car salesmen, the Glengarry, Glen Ross, the Boiler Room, like guys hitting the phones and trying to steal things from people. When in today's world, because information is so widely available, you're not pulling one over on anybody. All you're trying to do is communicate to people in a way where you can deliver value to them and you can be a resource for them. That's it. But nobody positions it that way. Everybody just gets told that they got to go make calls and make sales all day long, which is difficult to overcome as a human because it feels wrong to want to do that. No,
for sure. And so when you made the what would you say was a hard transition? I know from when you went from football to working with your dad's company. I mean, obviously you had, like you said, the kind of background knowledge already as far as dealing with people, communication. What was some of the things where you're like, okay, like I have to learn this, or I need to work on this?
That's a good question. Like, what did I need to learn? I think I needed to learn the cadence of sales a little better. Like for me, recruiting was seasonal, even though you did it year round, you were limited on what you could really do, and I could build a schedule in for when I was talking to kids and when I was direct messaging kids and how that was happening. In the world of business, it's much more wide open and free. So figuring out how to build that cadence for myself and understanding what the right dialogue was and how to position myself in conversations was new. That part I had to figure out. And really on a personal, just an insecurity level of feeling like I had gone from being an expert in something, feeling like I knew it inside and out and I was the man. I could have a conversation with anybody about anything. You could sit me down with Nick Saban and I wouldn't be, intimidated by knowledge of the game or what we were doing. To where stepping into the business world, I was like, look, we operated differently in college and in coaching. Like, like emails were like not even a thing, like you texted with people, that's it. So now I got to get comfortable with email and sending emails and crafting emails. And so just the confidence that everything I knew really did have value in this new world that I was working in. And, the confidence in just holding my own in those conversations was really what it was. But the biggest shock to me was managing my own calendar, right? I came from a world where every second of my day was decided by the head coach. We didn't have control of our calendars, but every second of the day was scheduled, similar to the military. You knew what you had to do all day, every day, but you weren't responsible for it. Somebody else was setting that schedule for you. And you're just going through it, You know, it was the
Correct.
same way in football. Like when we were in the season, head coach decided when we had staff meetings, when we had offensive and defensive meetings. And so the schedule was set for me. All I had to do was move through it, figuring out, number one, what were the activities that I needed to get calendared, and then how to create a repeatable process with those activities was really important to having success.
Definitely. And I think that's one of the things Roy and I have talked about, where we, recruiting can be a good or a bad thing when people dive into it. Cause like you said, if you're in a place where your schedule's been controlled, or they've spoon fed you, once again, information, if you do this, this is going to happen. Like you said, recruiting's not like that. It's very much like so what do you think is going to be the best email strategy? And you're like, I don't know, like this one. And they're like, sure, try it.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work, we're going to blame you. If it works, we're the one that taught you.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Yep. It's probably like the first time where you have to trust the process, but you real life won't see the result until some time down the road. Like you're doing certain things, because like we always say, if a light is out, I gotta go get a new ballast or a new bulb. I'll fix it. The light is working. Instant gratification. But here, like I talk at a symposium or a fair or some type of briefing, like, so are people gonna join now?
Right.
No. You see
Not
them
a chance.
They're going to go
a
marinate.
year down the road.
Yeah.
Because like it marinates, but that took some getting used to. It's like, wow, like what I do today won't show value or results until 3 days, 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road. And I think for a lot of people, especially if you're military affiliated, that is very hard to come to terms with. Because I mean, and that's anybody, sales anywhere. If you're used to
it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. Like you make
we
a burger,
work in
McDonald's,
90-day calendars. We work in 90-day calendars. Like, and that was another thing for me coming out. Like every week was its own lifespan for me, because we had a game at the end of every week. So, starting on Sunday, you started to prepare for the game on Saturday. You practiced Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, played Saturday, and then you started that process right back over. So it was a weekly turnover where you were moving on to a new thing and processing what happened and then applying lessons and moving forward. That is not the case in the real world. Like you're talking about, if things happen within a month, that happened fast. So we work in 90-day calendars of saying like, well, who are your targets? How are you, what activities are you focused on for these next 90 days in order to be able to move these people to yes, we need to continue to have conversations with them, or no, I can make a decision right now that this is not working. And so, we build in structure and process into everything, because that's the real measure of success in sales is, are you able to get back to the daily activities one day after another and not ride the highs and lows? Because sometimes it feels like you can't miss. All of a sudden you've got all these people that want to join and things are happening. It's good. But if you ride that wave and you're thinking that that's going to last, you are going to be very sorry in 2 weeks from now, because you're not going to be focused on doing all the activities that got you to that point. And now you're going to be sitting there going, oh shit, what happened? And now you got to try to get back all that momentum that you lost by getting away from the process. So to me, and it's the same thing as trying to win a championship. I mean, they talk about neutral thinking. Trevor Moad is a mental conditioning coach that we used, and he's worked his way through the whole Nick Saban coaching tree. But you'll hear college coaches all over that have come from Alabama that say it is all about neutral thinking. And essentially all that means is that you're only as good as the game that you played this week, right? Doesn't matter what you did last week. Doesn't matter whether or not you won or lost. It has absolutely no effect on what happens this week. So this week determines how good you are. It's the same thing in sales. Today determines how good you are, right? How good were you at your research? How good were you at sending out videos? How good were you at driving conversations and on your conversations? How good were you at follow-up? If you're unbelievable every day at research, outreach, and follow-up, you'll be successful. But the problem is nobody's focused on that. Everybody's focused on what the quota is at the end of the month.
For
That's the name of the
sure.
episode. That's the name of the episode, Cam. Today determines how good you are.
Oh, I
I love it.
I'm already here, bro. So you know, as we approach the end, there's always two main questions that we usually ask. So the first one is, you know, with military members transitioning or people starting to be recruiters or people getting into sales, you know, what would you say is probably not number one? Because as we know, there's a whole bunch of things that are good advice. But when someone says, you know, Mark, I want to get into recruiting or sales, like where should I start? Like, what's the advice piece that you start?
Start with your mindset. I don't care what it is that you do. I don't care if it's getting into recruiting, it's getting into sales. I don't care if you're going to go start, you know, directing planes out on the tarmac. If being successful all starts between the ears. If you are thinking the right things and focused on the right things, you will be able to overcome adversity, because adversity will come. If you don't have the right mindset, if you're not thinking the right things and focused on the right things, you have absolutely no chance at success. No chance.
Yeah.
So that to me is focus on what's happening between your ears. Get that straight before you go try to put anything into action.
Like it. And then
yeah, so is it two? Is it two things?
So
doing?
two questions. So you answer the first question. Second question is, when you hear "scare money don't make money," what does that mean to you?
You can't lose what you don't put in the middle, but you also can't win what you don't put in the middle. So you know, success takes risk, and you know, you're never gonna know what the outcome is. You're never gonna know whether or not, you know, it's a guaranteed positive. But if you don't put it in the middle, you can't win it. So you got to be willing to go all in.
Roy's making that face because, you know, so you're our 21st, or you're our 20th guest, actually. This is the 21st episode, 20th guest. And every single guest that we've had that we've asked that question has literally said something that is unique. And so, as you know, with the question, like, what does it mean to you? Scare money don't make it. Most people are like, oh, it means, like, you know, you don't, if you're just scared, you're not going to make no money. You would think it'd be a simple answer like that, but all of our guests we've been fortunate. I say fortunate because we really have been fortunate enough to have all of you really give a unique answer to that question, that, you know, that we love.
Awesome. I mean, really do, because like it's just it's something that you can think of, because we don't ask you this question before we get on this show. Like, so you don't know that you're gonna get that question. So answering it on the fly, but it is a real time response. And a lot of times, like everybody we've asked, they never hesitate. They automatically have a thought process for that phrase.
Well, I grew up with that term.
Yeah,
so like I grew up rolling dice and playing spades. So like all the time, scare money don't make money. Like, you better be willing to put your dollar in there.
Let it ride.
So it has a very real meaning to me. But as I've gotten older and applied it to a life philosophy, you know, the biggest rewards that I've gotten have come from the things that I felt the most uncomfortable about. You know, the farther away from my comfort zone that I've gotten, the more rewarding those experiences have been, the more I've learned from them, the more I've grown from them. So, you know, those growing pains, you can't be afraid of those things. You've got to be willing to do that if you want to have more than just what you're willing to accept.
For sure. And then to end it, this is your self-promotion, man. We like to give everybody a minute or whatever you need to talk about your brand, talk about where people to find you, what services you offer. So the floor is yours.
So I won't sell anything. You know, my passion and our passion at On the Ball is truly to help people and businesses grow through sales. So we specialize in modernizing the sales process for people, teaching video, teaching how to create a rinse and repeatable process to have conversations at scale, to uncover opportunities. So we are not in the automation of sales world. We believe in developing people, because people are what make organizations great. And then obviously with my background in organizational structure, through creating successful teams, I love working with leaders to help them become better leaders, to help create better internal communications, and do all of those things. So that's kind of the two areas that we focus on is leadership and organizational structure, sales process, and helping people use new tools with proven techniques in order to grow their business. But you know, if anybody wants to find me, I'm easy to find. I'm on every social channel, but LinkedIn is my favorite. So Marc Nudelberg, find me there. My email is Marc, M-A-R-C, @OnTheBallVentures. Always down for a virtual coffee, 15 minutes of just sharing stories, learning about each other to see if there's ways that we can help each other.
For sure. And yeah, and it's true. You can almost every day on LinkedIn, I see either a notification that says your dad scheduled something, or one of Mark's videos pops up. And you know, Roy, I was going to tell you about the video right before we end. Is I messaged him earlier. I said, man, I loved your video this morning because it was all about the pain that people like us feel who want to be successful because we're passionate about the things that we're doing. And it's like it's this weird pain where, you know, it doesn't feel good to have that pain, but we enjoy the pain of learning to succeed.
But yeah, the struggle of success is not fun. It doesn't feel good. Like I think that's the, you know, and then look, there are people who get a lot of attention that are screaming, love the pain. You got to love the pain. I don't think it's realistic. Like there might be some people who thrive on that, but I think that's a small percentage of people. The majority of the other successful people in the world don't love the pain. They're just willing. They understand how to keep the purpose at the forefront of their vision and keep their eyes on the purpose and know that this is just something that's a part of me getting to where I want to be.
He's the facial guy.
Well, awesome,
all right,
guys. I appreciate the opportunity. I really do.
Any last minute thoughts, Roy, before we get out?
Man, keep your goal in front of you. Even if you got it, like I like it. Like just keep your goal in front of you. Whatever your dream is, whatever you're aspiring to do, the pain is temporary.
Yep.
The pain is temporary. So go after your goals.
I meant a few words, but all right. Well, it's been another awesome episode of Scare Money Don't Make Money. We appreciate you, Marc. You know, check him out, and we'll see you guys later.
Next time.
Oh, whoops! Never mind. Cancel it. Edit that.